Hi, in this section, I'm going to demonstrate a real-time project in which I will show you a deployment of an application on a Kubernetes cluster using Jenkins CI/CD. So first of all, let me explain you what exactly I'm going to perform in this project. So here in this PPT, I have tried to include all the steps with the required tools of this real-time deployment. So let's understand. So here you can see we have one dedicated team of your developer who is working on this project. And also you need to create an account on your GitHub. And once you have an account on the GitHub, you need to create a repository for this project. You can give any name. Say for example, you have given the name like Kubernetes_project. And inside that repository, your developer is going to push the code. And then you need to create 3 servers. First server is for the Jenkins servers, which is used to automate your entire project. Ansible server is also required because with the help of Ansible server, we need to transfer few files from one server to another server. And also with the help of Ansible server, we need to create few Ansible playbooks, and that is required for the deployment of your package on the Kubernetes cluster. And here we also need to create one account on the Docker Hub. So let's understand. So your developer team is working along with the ops team for the creation of the required files. Because here for the completion of this project, it is required so many files like your application coding, Docker file, your deployment file, your Ansible file, Ansible playbook, service file. So a lot of files are required. Suppose your developer has created all the files and the developers are working from their laptop, from their local system. And from the local systems, your developer is going to push those codes to the GitHub repository. And we have 3 servers. One is your Jenkins server, Ansible server, and the Kubernetes cluster. And then you need to integrate your Jenkins server with the GitHub via Webhook. So the role of Webhook is that as soon as you have any new file into your GitHub repository or any file has been modified, immediately a job will be initiated. And whatever the steps you have mentioned in your Jenkins pipeline, it is going to execute all the stages one by one. So here you need to create the Jenkins pipeline. So in the Jenkins pipeline, the first stage is your Git checkout. So basically in the Git checkout, it is going to clone the entire repository from the GitHub to the Jenkins server. Suppose the developer has created 10 files for this project, and all the 10 files your developer has been pushed to the GitHub repository. Now here we have integrated the webhook. So what will happen? Immediately the files are coming to the GitHub repository. Your Jenkins job will be initiated. And first step, it is going to transfer all the files from the GitHub to the Jenkins server. So this is the first step. Second step, it is going to send the required files to the respective server. Like the Docker file, it is going to send the Docker file to the Ansible server via SSH agent. Also on the Jenkins servers, they have the deployment file, they have the service file. So those files are required to send to the Kubernetes cluster. And your Ansible server is also your Docker server. Now we have the Docker file that we have transferred from the Jenkins server to the Ansible server. And on the Ansible server, we have installed the Docker package as well. The next stage is your build the Docker image on the Ansible server. So with the help of few commands, which is mentioning on your Jenkins pipeline, we would be creating the Docker image. Now we have the Docker image. After that, you need to tag the Docker image. For that, we need to create another stage for that. Now we have created the Docker image as well as we have done the tagging of the Docker image. Now we need to push the Docker image from the Ansible server to the Docker Hub. So here you need to create an account on the Docker Hub, and with the command I will show you what is the command and how we can integrate your Ansible server to the Docker Hub. So everything I'm going to perform from the Jenkins server only. In the next stage, we need to send a few files from the Jenkins servers to the Kubernetes server, like your deployment file, your service file, and also we have created one file, that is the Ansible file. Your developer or your ops team has created the Ansible playbook file. So that file is currently present on the Jenkins server. So you need to send that file to the Ansible server. So everything we are going to perform from the Jenkins server using the pipeline. And at the last, we need to execute your Ansible playbook. And in the Ansible playbook, we need to specify where this playbook is going to be executed. So here I want this playbook should be executed from your Ansible server to the Kubernetes cluster. And in the Kubernetes cluster, we have created our deployment file, the service file. So with the help of Ansible playbook, I'm going to execute my deployment file and the service file. So your Docker image that is present on the Docker Hub is going to be executed on the Kubernetes cluster as a Docker container. And after that, you can access your application from the outside. For that, we have the service file. Your service file is also in execution state using your Ansible playbook. So everything I'm going to perform from the Jenkins server. So no worries, I'm going to perform all the stages one by one so that you will have clear idea how we can perform a real-time deployment on a Kubernetes cluster using your Jenkins CI/CD. So that's all. We'll see you in the next lecture.